Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Yes Prep Virtual College Fair. We're so excited to have you all here this morning. We have 6 wonderful institutions here to share a little bit more about what each of them do. Each will have 6 minutes to present, but I encourage you to send your questions throughout the entire session. There's no need to save those questions until the end. Your camera and microphone are off, and it will remain off throughout the entire session, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. You will want to send those questions through that Q&A you see on your screen. There's another hour of programming after this session concludes, so feel free to check that out and sign up for more if you haven't already. And a reminder that this session is being recorded and that the recording will be available at strivescan.com/yesprep in the coming days should you need to return to any of this information. And so with that, we'll go ahead and get started with our first institution, which is Amherst College.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to StriveScan for hosting the event. I'm just going to share my screen real quick. Okay, so again, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're coming from. I'm here to talk to you guys a little bit about Amherst College. So let me move on to the next slide. So this is a map just showing where Amherst is. We're out in Western Massachusetts, sort of cradling New York and Boston, maybe Montreal even. And this is the way we like to identify ourselves. We're a small national/international, highly selective liberal arts college. So that's a lot of words. So basically what I'm just trying to get at, we're a small institution. Our student body is about 1,800 students. So that's the size of, some of the larger high schools that are out there. We have a 7-to-1 student faculty ratio. So for every one faculty, there's 7 students. We have an 1,000-acre campus, about 500 acres of which are actually taken up by a wildlife sanctuary that we have on campus. So we have some beautiful nature, right on campus, right in between, interwoven with the rest of the campus community. And we're a residential school. So 98% of our students will live on campus all 4 years that they're here. Housing is guaranteed all 4 years. For the national, international, really what we're trying to get at with that is just to highlight the diversity of our campus. About 50% of our students identify as students of color. We represent 49 different states. We're missing only North Dakota. We also represent various different US territories. And we represent over 50 different countries. So we're really pulling, not just from everywhere in this country, but we're pulling from everywhere across the world. We're pulling from different socioeconomic backgrounds. About half of our students are also students who are on financial aid of some sort. So, we're trying to bring in as diverse a student body as possible and then also support them once they come here. Because it's one thing to bring these students to campus, it's another thing to make sure that they're thriving and successful. So we have a 2-pronged approach. We have institutional support with theme housing and our resource centers. And we also have a student-led approach with our affinity groups here on campus, of which I was a part. I should have introduced myself. My name is Felipe Gomez. I'm actually a recent graduated in the class of 2021. Now I'm working in the admissions office. During my time there, I was a part of La Causa, which is our Latino affinity group. So if people have questions about that, feel free to ask me in the chat. And finally, we're a liberal arts college. So we really emphasize reading, writing, research, and critical analysis. We're trying to create students who are well-rounded and have a variety of different interests. And in the interest of time, I'm going to move on to the next slide. So one thing that really makes Amherst stand out is our open curriculum. We have no core curriculum, no divisional, distributional, or general education requirements. So the only 3 requirements that we do have are that you complete 32 courses, which comes out to about 4 courses a semester for 8 a year. You have to declare a major. We encourage students to wait until the end of their sophomore year to declare a major. And once you do so, you're required, obviously, to fulfill those major requirements. And then we have something called the first year seminar, which is a class. It's the only class that we have that's restricted to just 1 grade. And it's restricted to only first year students. And that just sort of helps ease the transition from high school to college. It's still very much a course that's at the level of any other course you'll take at Amherst College. But, it can help integrate students to be in a class where maybe the pressure is a little bit lower because you don't have the seniors in the room. And those classes tend to be very interdisciplinary. It's full-time faculty that teach them. They love to teach them. We have more faculty sign up to teach them than we have spots available. So it's something they very much like to do. And it's a big part of your experience as a first year. Next, I'd like to talk about the 5 College Consortium. So this is another thing that makes Amherst very unique. We're situated in the Pioneer Valley or the Connecticut River Valley. So within a 10-mile radius of us, there are 4 other colleges. There's Hampshire College, Smith College, Mount Holyoke College, and the University of Massachusetts Amherst, which is the flagship campus for the University of Massachusetts system. All these colleges are connected by a free bus system. We share 14 different certificate programs. So at Amherst College, we only offer majors, we don't offer minors. A large percentage of our student population will double major, but if you're interested in something more akin to a minor, these certificate programs are a great option. You take classes at the different 5 colleges, and we have certificate programs in all sorts of different things. If you'd like to be a teacher, there's actually a certificate program that offers in the classroom teaching experience, so that's very exciting. But yeah, the benefits of the 5 college consortium, like I said before, we're a small school. University of Massachusetts Amherst is a very large state school. So through the 5 college consortium, you have access to different types of college experiences. And also you're able to take courses at any of the other 5 colleges. I know Mount Holyoke and Smith are historically women's colleges, but enrollment for any students at Amherst College is open to anyone of any gender. And yeah, it's just a great opportunity. I'm coming up on time, so I'm going to talk very briefly about financial aid at Amherst. We're a need-blind institution, both for domestic and non-US citizens and international students. We only offer need-based financial aid. We don't offer athletic or merit or academic scholarships. We do have a no-loan financial aid policy. We're one of the nation's first and fewest colleges with a no-loan policy. So when you graduate, there's your financial aid package will not include loans that you'll have to pay back later on. And we promise to meet 100% of all demonstrated need for our students, so that there's no gapping, as they call it, where the amount in the financial aid package does not meet the demonstrated need for that family. Here's some quick deadlines. November 1st, early decision, November 1st for our transfers as well, January 3rd for regular decision, March 1st for our transfer students. And then here's just some information for how to reach us, and thank you all so much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Felipe, for taking the time to share a little bit more about Amherst College. Up next, we have Bowdoin College.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gerlin, and I'm an admissions counselor here at Bowdoin College in Brunswick, Maine. I graduated from Bowdoin College a few years ago, and I'm actually originally from Houston, so I live very close to one of the Yes Prep campuses. Before anything else, I have a little video prepared for everyone, so we'll just take a moment and watch that.
So hard to get to this point. You've taken the classes, stuck to the schedule, given the right answers. Now, choose a college that will ask you the right question. Who will you be? If you think Bowdoin might be that college, we can help you afford it.
So that concludes our video. 1 second, I am switching screens, and here we go. Okay. Is everyone seeing a PowerPoint of sorts? But my question to everyone here is, who will you be at Bowdoin? Oops, I think technical
We can see the PowerPoint, just so you
You can
know.
see the PowerPoint? Okay, thank you. Will you be at home 3,000 miles away from Houston, where we have winter, but also we have our hometown Brunswick that supports us, provides us everything we need, from good coffee, food, to easy access to Portland and Boston. We also have a scenic close with research facilities available to everyone and a dedication to the common good. So the common good is very big here at Bowdoin, and we believe that we are not just about making our own lives easier, but about making our society and our world a better place. That's one of our founding principles, and that's what we stuck to all this time and will continue doing so. That means when Bowdoin look for people, we want people who work together, who recognize that there is something bigger than themselves, and then there is work out there to be done. We want students who ask big, tough questions, who see problems in the world and think how they could change them. At Bowdoin, it is not us against each other, but it's us against the problem. But that doesn't mean that all of our graduates work in nonprofits or public service, though many of them do, but they're also working at or founded some of the most impactful organizations on earth. A Bowdoin education is flexible, adaptable, you can do whatever you want, be successful, creative, visionary, but also socially responsible. If you're interested in grad school, many of our graduates also attend grad school after leaving Bowdoin, and these are some of the grad schools enrolling the highest number of Bowdoin alumni. So now I've told you so much about Bowdoin. What do we know about students who are right for Bowdoin? And here is a not so secret formula. First, you have to have the grades. Bowdoin is selective. Our classes are small and rigorous. The work we do is real, it's big, and it's challenging. Bowdoin will, over the course of 4 years, change their mind, and we want students who can keep up and who are willing for that, up for that challenge. And what's the heart? We are looking for people who are generous with their time. We want people in the community who welcome new viewpoints, are open to new ideas. We're less interested in what you're passionate about right now, but we care about who you're kind to and who you're helping. One thing we don't look for in your application is your income. For admissions, we are need blind, which means your opportunity to be admitted to Bowdoin will never depend on your family's ability to pay for it. We meet the full demonstrating need of every student who attends, and we do that using grants, which is money you do not have to pay back. If you are applying for financial aid, we also waive your application fee automatically. We spend over $50 million on financial aid every year, and we believe that we can't provide an education that benefits a common good if it's only available to families who can't afford it. One thing we don't look for is test scores. We have not required standardized tests since 1969, and so this incoming class will be the 50th year in a row. So we are confident in our ability to select gifted, generous, and grounded students using their transcripts, recommendations, and other personal aspects. You're welcome to submit test scores, however, we don't hold it against any applicants who choose not to, and I promise that is true. To give you some stats, over 40% of the Bowdoin class of 2025 chose not to include test scores with their application. So what is it like to be at Bowdoin? If you ask the students, they'll tell you it's busy, it's collaborative, it's beautiful, it's really hard work, it's a place to push yourself, it's a place to be yourself. But every single person who attends Bowdoin has one thing in common. We believe in them. We see something in them and we believe that the world will benefit from their fullest potential. So here I will leave you with the offer of the college, what Bowdoin has to offer for the next 4 years, and invite you to think about whether we're the right place for you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time to share a little bit more about Bowdoin. Next up, we'll hear from, and before I pass things off to our next institution, actually, I do want to make a quick plug for that Q&A. And so if you have any questions about the institutions you've already heard from, or any for the institutions you're yet to hear from in this session, don't forget that you can send those questions at any point through the Q&A. But from here, we'll head on over to Brown University.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Francisco. I'm an assistant director of admission here at Brown. I'm excited to talk to you a little bit more about what's going on up here. I first want to start by talking a little bit about where we are. So we're located in Providence, Rhode Island, which is the capital of Rhode Island. We're pretty close to Boston, it's just under an hour away, and New York is very easy to get to by train. And so one nice thing that I always like to highlight about Providence, particularly when I'm talking to my students from Texas, very broadly speaking, but particularly from those of you that are here in Houston, is that you have these two big cities that are going to feel a little bit more familiar, at least in terms of size, with Houston. But if you're looking at Providence, Providence is actually fairly small. It's the second largest city and metro area in New England. But the nice thing about it is that while you're here in college, it's actually very easy to get around to. And so when you're thinking about what the next 4 years will look like, just from a practical standpoint, like if you're coming to Brown, you'll be on campus. The community is called College Hill. But if you're thinking about internships, about hanging out over the weekend, about what your life will actually look like, if you want to get off campus, it's very easy to do that. You kind of just go down the hill and into downtown. This is like a picture, a shot of the city from the campus. And so the nice thing about all of this is just how easy it is to be able to get to different things that you might want to do or explore if and when you want to. Brown makes it easier by making it so that, you know, any public transportation you're trying to get on is always going to be free. You just swipe your Brown ID and you kind of get around pretty easily. The big thing that I want to make sure that you know, and I'll talk about this a little bit more, is that just like Amherst, we have an open curriculum. The open curriculum at Brown came from students in the 60s that said that they did not really need or want to have these requirements, that they wanted to be able to think about how to come into their next 4 years and to put together their own curriculum. Of course, administration thought, let's take a closer look. And after they did, they said, let's try it. And they opened up this thing called the new curriculum, right? The dean of the college, who is a Brown alum, as you'll see, is a very, very passionate advocate and talks beautifully about it. But one thing I really like to always highlight about the way that the open curriculum looks at Brown is that students are always kind of wondering about how it actually works, right? How you put it together. And one of the things I most appreciate about Brown students is that when they're thinking about how to choose their classes and what the 4 years will actually look like, if no one is telling them what classes to take, right? If you have no core requirements, if you have no distributive requirements, if you have none of those things that are kind of guiding which classes to take, do you still get a well-rounded curriculum? Are you still going to be prepared for medical school or law school or any of those things? And year after year, we always do an audit of our students' transcripts after they graduate. And overwhelmingly, resoundingly, the answer is yes. They're always very well prepared. Part of that is because of the advising, right, that's in place. So when you come to Brown, you'll have an academic advisor, you'll have a peer advisor. But also part of that is because students are curious here and they want to be able to explore in a way that makes sense to them, not because they have to. Part of the way that actually looks like for them is that they're doing research throughout the year, right? And so over 1,000 of our students are doing research throughout the academic year, and then another 600 to 800 are doing research throughout the summer. One of the nice things about this is that as students are kind of thinking about how they're putting their classes together or how they're going to do research, if they're thinking about whether they're going to do it over the summer, whether they're going to do it on campus or somewhere else in the world, whether they're going to do it through the university or maybe somewhere locally, wherever that is. One of the big things that kind of permeates the experience here at Brown is that the only thing that should get in the way of your experience at Brown should be your ability to imagine that, right? So money should not be the thing that gets in the way. And so one of the nice things about funding is that if you're thinking about doing research, there are so many different ways to get that funded, whether it's through the department that you're doing the research with, or through the university, through some of our broader funds, but you're able to get funded pretty quickly and pretty easily. I'm always a little bit afraid that I'm going over time. So I want to switch over to student life. One of my favorite things that a previous dean used to say here was that, students always ask us, what's a typical Brown student like? And he always used to say that if you've met one Brown student, you've only met one Brown student, right? And so we have 7,000 students, 7,000 undergraduates here. And if you meet one, you really only know one. And that just means that students here are, fairly different in not just in their personalities, but also in what they do. So you might go into any of these community centers or organizations and meet people that are working together on something, and you ask them what they're up to outside of that, and you'll get very, very different answers, right? And so it's kind of hard to nail down in a typical sense, but I think that one thing that does kind of highlight, one commonality between all of these students is really that they are very protective of what it feels like to be on campus. And so what I mean by that is students take very good care to make sure that while they're on campus, that there is a sense of community, such that it doesn't feel like you can't do something, right? That students always want to be able to kind of move around, whether, with the open curriculum, you see it very often where you might have a chemistry concentrator that decides to take a class in political science, right? You see that play out all over the campus, right? Especially through our organizations where you have students that they might have been involved with, for example, gaming and esports for most of their time at Brown, but they might want to try ballroom dancing their junior year, just because they finally saw the group, post up at the activities fair. And they really take care to make sure that the community is such that it feels like if you want to try something, it's not a very big deal to do that. Students here are very protective of that feeling, of that, space on campus, and making sure that it always feels like if you want to try something out, that's really the only limit that you have. And so we always like kind of showcasing a lot of
Francisco,
yes.
I'm just letting you know that we are out of time and we'll need to transition over to the next institution now.
Thank you. Sounds good. All right. Move over and I'll stop share.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit more about Brown. Next up, we have Dartmouth College.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kate Featherston. I am a Senior Assistant Director of Admissions here at Dartmouth. I also read all of the applications for the Houston area in addition to some other colleagues. So if you apply, I'll be reading yours, which is very exciting. I've been working with the Houston area for a while now, and I'm really excited to introduce Dartmouth to you. So we think about Dartmouth in terms of what we call the 3 Ps. So place, people, and process, kind of how you get here. So starting with place, we are located in Hanover, New Hampshire, which is basically smack dab in the middle of New England. We're about 2 hours north of Boston, 3 hours south of Montreal, and about 4 hours from New York City. We're right on the border between the states of Vermont and New Hampshire in this beautiful verdant area called the Upper Valley, which is surrounded by mountains. Our student body comes from all over the world, all over the country, and it's truly a global space. So we have students from all 50 states, 92 different countries, and 27 different tribal communities coming on campus and bringing their perspectives, their cultures, and their experiences. Also, 45% of our student body are domestic students of color, 12% are international students, and 15% are the first in their families to go to college. Our campus is along the banks of the Connecticut River and is one that's really inextricably tied to nature, with the White Mountains of New Hampshire on one side and the Green Mountains of Vermont on the other, with the Appalachian Trail quite literally running through campus. This is a place where students, staff, and faculty can figuratively and literally breathe a little easier. Our connection to nature in our adventuresome student body creates this residential campus experience that's just a little bit more relaxed. Our students are not competitive, they're much more collaborative here. Our town, Hanover, which you can see here in this overview shot, is a quintessential New England college town that's really close to campus. Right where my cursor is, that is Main Street, Hanover. So steps from campus, you'll have everything that you need: restaurants, shops, bookstores, 24-hour CVS, a grocery store, all within walking distance of campus. It's a very walkable place and very few students have cars here. This college in the woods is also a magnet for intellectual and social life in our region. So whether that's the Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center, which is the largest tertiary hospital north of Boston, just off campus, or the Hood Museum of Art, which is one of the largest collections of art in New England, right on our green. We are at our core a liberal arts institution, but we are also an R1 level research university. Technically, we should be called Dartmouth University because we have 4 graduate schools here. They're listed here on the right side of your screen, but we call ourselves Dartmouth College because of our commitment to the undergraduate experience and undergraduate teaching. Our undergraduate students outnumber our grad students 2 to 1. So we have 4,400 undergrads, 2,200 grad students. That makes this sort of mid-sized institution where we're not a tiny school, but we're also not a huge school, kind of a Goldilocks size for many students. Our professors are teachers first, researchers second, and we prioritize undergraduate students in every aspect of the college, whether that's lab resources, access to research opportunities, and everything in between. We have 60 plus majors and minors, everything from engineering to art history, the humanities, the sciences, and kind of everything in between. And we really want you to explore regardless of what your major is. So we have distributive requirements that help you kind of navigate our curriculum, but never put in place classes that you must take. So it's really an opportunity for you to expand yourself outside of your comfort zone intellectually in the classroom. A fundamental characteristic of academic life here at Dartmouth is what we call the Dartmouth Plan or the D Plan. That's our quarter system. So most colleges in the country have semesters where you have classes in the fall and the spring, and then you have the summers off. At Dartmouth, we have 4 quarters a year that closely align to the seasons. And some years at Dartmouth, you'll have a really traditional schedule where you're here in the fall, winter, spring, and have the summers off. But some years you'll have an atypical schedule where maybe you're here during the summer months, but you go do an internship during the winter in San Francisco and maybe go abroad in the spring. You have a lot of flexibility to determine when you're on campus and when you're not. Because of the Dartmouth Plan, things like study abroad are really easy and really popular with students. About 60% of our students will study away at least once, 30% twice, and 10% 3 times or more. We have 60 plus destinations worldwide. 6 are listed here, but we have many, many more. And also financially it goes with you. So whatever price you pay to be on campus in Hanover is the same price you'd pay to be in Bangkok or South Africa. As a college that is older than the country is, quite literally, we've gathered quite a few traditions in our 250 plus year history. One of my favorites is called Homecoming, where each October, it was just last week, we welcome back our 80,000 plus alumni to Hanover to welcome the incoming class to the Dartmouth family. And what is in line with other quirky Dartmouth traditions here, we build this huge multi-story bonfire that you can see pictured here with the first year class graduation date at the top. So this year it's 2025. We light it on fire while the first years parade around campus and run around the bonfire. Around the circle, alumni from all classes, old and new, hold up signs that say things like welcome home. They're welcoming you home to a vibrant campus community with 350 plus campus clubs, 35 Division I sports teams, numerous identity-based organizations and affinity groups, Greek life, and a highly residential campus where 90% of students live on campus all 4 years. This is a place where community is a big part of life here. So community is what makes Dartmouth Dartmouth. And we want to ensure that you'll have a space on campus, regardless of your interests, your niche, your identity. There's a space for you to thrive here. I want to underline and kind of drive home Dartmouth's affordability. We are need blind for domestic students and also meet 100% of your family's financial need. We're committed to making Dartmouth an affordable option regardless of your family's ability to pay. And we meet 100% of your family's financial need. We also have an average grant, that's money that you don't have to pay back per family, per student of 60,000 or 62 rather this year per family, which is really great per year as well. We also have a tuition guarantee that if your family makes under $125,000, there will be free tuition. And also just announced this week, if you have a family income of under $65,000 with typical assets, that means that you will have no expected parent contribution to attend Dartmouth and no loans. So kind of furthering our commitment to supporting students regardless of your ability to pay. And if you want to learn more about Dartmouth, here are some quick QR codes. But with that, I think I'll give it to my next presenter. Thanks, Isabella.
Wonderful, and thank you so much, Kate, for taking the time to share a little bit more about Dartmouth College. Before I pass it off to our next institution, I'm going to make another quick plug for that Q&A. So thank you so much to the students who have already been sending questions, but don't forget that you can continue to send those at any point throughout the session through the Q&A. And so with that, I'll go ahead and pass things over to our next institution, which is Haverford College.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Really excited to be here. My name's Kathleen Abels. This is my contact information. I'm a proud Haverford alum as well. I graduated in 2009, so many moons ago. And I feel like the opportunity to share a little bit about myself and make this process a little bit more personal. So I have two rescue dogs. Their names are Granola and Yogurt. So I care a great deal about breakfast, you'll see. Quick intro to Haverford. So Haverford is, like some of my colleagues here today, a small liberal arts and sciences college located on the East Coast of the United States. You'll see that students are coming from all over the US and all over the globe. My favorite Haverford stat, there's a 6-to-1 tree to student ratio. And we're really interested in bringing students to campus who are excited to be part of a highly residential living and learning environment. We meet 100% of demonstrated need, regardless of citizenship. Last year, average financial aid package was just about $52,000 a year. We also have a program called Lift FAR, and this is meant to give students somewhere between $500 and $1,000 grants for things that couldn't be covered in your financial aid. So if there's a dental emergency that's not covered by your dental insurance, or if you got that interview at a med school on the West Coast and they haven't paid for your flight to that interview, Lift FAR is a fund to make sure every student feels like every opportunity they've worked so hard for is available to them. Haverford is located just outside of the city of Philadelphia. Philadelphia is the 6th largest city in the United States, the first World Heritage City in the United States, and it's often known as a city of eds and meds. So some amazing world-renowned hospitals in the city of Philadelphia, and also some really wonderful educational institutions as well. We're just 3 miles from the Philadelphia city line, about 8 miles from Center City, Philadelphia, and there are 2 train lines on either side of campus. So you're never more than a 10 or 15-minute walk to the train and then a 20-minute train ride into Center City, Philadelphia. I think students are often surprised that we're so close to a major metropolitan area because the campus itself, it looks like a park. It's super idyllic, about 200 acres, surrounded by a lot of natural beauty, but you're not in a remote or isolated location. We guarantee housing all 4 years. All of our housing options cost the same amount. So again, wanting every student to feel like every housing option is one they can take advantage of. And over 40% of our faculty members live on campus. So this is a place a lot of people call home. And I think that's something you can very much feel. Amherst talked about their consortium, and like Amherst, Haverford is also lucky enough to be part of a really wonderful consortium. Ours is called the Quaker Consortium, very creatively named because all 4 institutions were founded by Quakers. But what this means is that our students are able to take whatever courses they'd like at Bryn Mawr College and Swarthmore College. And if a class isn't offered at Bryn Mawr, Haverford, or Swarthmore, you can take that at the University of Pennsylvania in any of their undergraduate colleges. About half of our students each year will take a class outside of Haverford. And the TRICO, so the 3 liberal arts colleges, Bryn Mawr, Haverford, and Swarthmore, also have very much a social consortium. Free transportation between Haverford and Bryn Mawr and Haverford and Swarthmore. And if you're on financial aid, we'll pay for your train ticket into the University of Pennsylvania as well. You swipe your meal card at Bryn Mawr and Swarthmore, you eat in their dining centers at no additional cost. So a very well-loved, well-used consortium that allows our students to have the benefits of a small liberal arts college where average class size is 14 and every student is guaranteed undergraduate research and the resources of a much larger university. We have a few dual degree programs, which I think just scratch the surface in terms of what our students go on to do next, but really speaks to Haverford being a small school with a big name in higher education. One of the aspects of our Quaker founding is sort of thinking about this idea of the importance of continued search for truth. We want our students to ask big questions and find big answers and to feel like Haverford is a place that is going to support their search for truth over their 4 years. These academic centers are both physical spaces, but also grant-making bodies. And while it's sort of elementary, I like to think they're places our students get to say, wouldn't it be cool if? Right? To have that opportunity to do research at that world-class observatory, to have internships across the globe fully funded by the college, and have opportunities to present at international conferences alongside of Nobel laureates. We're one of a handful of institutions in the United States to guarantee undergraduate research, and we do that through a senior thesis. For us in admission, we know every student who's admitted is capable of doing their own undergraduate research, and we really see this as a culminating moment in your life as a scholar. You will pose a question that has not yet been answered and spend part of your senior year going about answering that question. This is both a deeply individual process, but also a really collective one. Each and every one of your classmates, each and every one of our seniors is going about searching for their own truth. And many of our students are published either alongside faculty members or through their senior thesis by the time they graduate. Like my wonderful colleagues here, Haverford's also a place where students are able to have a lot of fun. Over 145 clubs and organizations on campus. Just some examples listed here. Our Students Council manages a budget of $500,000 to spend on those 145 clubs and organizations, 23 varsity sports teams, and some amazing traditions, the most important of which is shared governance. So Haverford has an honor code, both social and academic in nature, which allows for an unprecedented amount of freedom and flexibility. And with that, I look forward to your questions in the chat. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Kathleen, for sharing a little bit more about Haverford College. And last but certainly not least, we have Wesleyan University.
Thank you very much, Isabella, excuse me. Hi there, everyone. My name is Kate Thompson. I use she, her pronouns. I'm an Associate Dean of Admission here at Wesleyan, and I'm really excited to be here today to talk to all of you at West Prep a little bit more about Wesleyan. First of all, Wesleyan is located in Middletown, Connecticut, which is technically a city of about 50,000 people in central Connecticut. So we're not too far from our colleagues at Brown over in Providence, Rhode Island, but we're a little bit more of the middle point between New York City and Boston. So it's about 2 hours to either city, and which are both easily accessible by multiple forms of public transit. And I think that our location in central Connecticut means that we are sort of as the middle point, gives students a lot of opportunity to, connect with these cities, but also to bring resources from those cities to Wesleyan. Here at West, just a sort of brief overview, we like to call ourselves a liberal arts university, which is the combination, of course, of both a liberal arts and sciences college, as well as a research university. So we have just about 3,000 undergraduate students here at Wesleyan, and about 200 graduate students. We offer graduate programs in the natural sciences, mathematics, and ethnomusicology. So what it really means is that we're eligible for graduate level funding and we're conducting graduate level research on campus, but the majority of that's happening at the undergraduate level. And there's a real focus on the undergraduate experience at Wesleyan. Being a liberal arts college means that we're not offering pre-professional degree programs like nursing or marketing. Instead, we're really focused on skill building. So the ability to think critically, speak articulately, write eloquently, problem solve, and work collaboratively. Those skill sets we really believe are the best preparation that you could get for whatever it is you choose to do with your Wesleyan education upon graduation. One of the ways that our faculty really encourage you to take advantage of the liberal arts is by having a fully open curriculum. So here at Wesleyan, there is no set of specific courses that you're required to take to graduate on time. This means that you're able to come in and take the classes that are most interesting to you and figure out for yourself how it is you want to use the resources available to you over the next 4 years. But it can also be a little bit overwhelming to have 900 plus courses to choose from in a given year at Wesleyan and be told just pick 4. So we have a really, really strong advising program, sort of a 3-tiered advising program that can support you in your academic journey and your learning at Wesleyan. The open curriculum, in addition to the academic advising and the support resources that you have, I think also really allows you to take advantage of interdisciplinary learning opportunities. So close to 50% of Wesleyan students are double majors. So choosing subjects that might seem really similar, like computer science and mathematics, to major in at the same time, or things as disparate as studio art and biology. We have students that are majoring in subjects that don't have a lot of overlap or don't seem to have a lot of overlap, and they really find ways to connect those and ask interesting questions. But I think really the open curriculum allows you to take advantage of exploration, to learn as much from your peers as you are from your professors, and really be accountable to that knowledge production process. As I said, there's a lot of opportunity for undergraduate research. So from your freshman year on, you can get involved in a professor's lab research work, working with professors in the humanities department, maybe editing or supporting their research, to editing their next novel. There's a lot of opportunities to try research on for size in a lot of different forms, whether that be staying on campus over the summer and conducting research, or taking advantage of opportunities at other institutions or organizations. But about 40% of Wesleyan students are published in peer-reviewed and academic journals by the time that they graduate. So we really encourage students to, ask difficult questions and to figure out for themselves, how they want to, as I said, utilize their Wesleyan education. In addition to sort of the academic side of this, we are a fully residential community with over 98% of students living on campus all 4 years. And our housing model operates on a model of progressive independence. So in your first year, you're in a residence hall with the opportunity to connect really closely to the center of campus and sort of get your feet under you in that first year. But even as a senior, when you're living in, a wood frame house that's owned by the university or one of our apartment style living opportunities, you're still connected to the institution living on campus, which I think is a great equalizer. It keeps you connected to the events that are happening on campus. But you also, have to learn how to take out your trash on trash night and, live well with roommates that you've chosen and who's going to be responsible for cleaning that bathroom, right? But I think that this residential piece of this is really important to us. We see our role as an institution not only as teaching you how to be good academics and intellectuals, but also how to be strong community members. We have over 250 clubs and organizations at Wesleyan that are all student run and led, and we really want to encourage students to try things on for size. So similar to our open curriculum, I think our community really takes on that spirit of exploration and spirit of collaboration as well. And I would say, though, that the one thing that really binds Wesleyan students together is this idea of social impact, getting involved in your community in some form, seeing how it could, take advantage, or how you could, seeing the world as it could be and figuring out how to make pragmatic steps to get there. We accept both the Common and Coalition application, and in the spirit of looking towards access and wanting to create a more equitable community, we do that in our admission process as well. So we are fully test optional. We don't require the submission of standardized test scores, and we meet 100% of demonstrated need. And if your family makes under or around $120,000 per year with normal assets, we guarantee that you'll graduate with no loans, and we guarantee for any student who qualifies for financial aid that they'll graduate with no more than $19,000 in loans total over their entire 4 years. And I invite you to be in touch with me and my colleague Cruz, who is our representative from Texas, who's with me today and answering questions in the chat. Thank you so much for your time.
Wonderful, and thank you so much, Kate, for taking the time to tell us a little bit more about Wesleyan. At this point, I'll invite all of our presenters to rejoin us over video, and we'll pose a quick question to the full group before we wrap things up. All right, so we'll have everyone answer in the order in which you presented, but we'll have you all answer the question of what is one myth you'd like to debunk about the college admissions process? And Amherst, do you want to go ahead and start us off?
Yeah, sure. That's a tough question. I think I would say the myth that there is some kind of magic formula for an applicant or an application, that there's like, if you just get this one thing, your application will all fall into place and it'll be perfect. If you just get this test score, take this class. But really, my advice is just try your best in school, pursue your passions as best you can, and that'll come through on the application. The rest of it, is out of your control, so I wouldn't even worry about it.
I think the essay part of the application gives a lot of people stress. And I would say that there is no boring topic, there is no boring essay, but how you write about it. If it means a lot to you, please write about it. It doesn't have to be the greatest trauma you faced in your life. It doesn't have to be the greatest thing you've achieved in life, but if it means a lot to you, please write about it.
Hi, everyone. Thanks. I think the myth that I would like to kind of address is that that the decisions that we make as admissions offices are of a reflection of your worth. Our admission offices have both the blessing of getting to know thousands and thousands of students, but it's also really hard to know that most of the students that we read are going to be not just successful and really great in their futures, but also that they are all very, very worthy, and most of them would do fantastically on our campuses. As a counselor, that when I was a counselor in high school, that was the biggest myth that I realized students have, is that those decisions somehow reflect something about who they are, and it's really about this really tough process where we have to think about a tiny, tiny, tiny number of students that we can bring on here that reflect, the priorities and the things that we want to be able to bring into a class. And it's just really tough when we have as big and competitive applicant pools as we're lucky to have. And so it's much more about us than it is about you.
I know we're just at time, Isabel, so do we still have time to keep going?
Yeah, that's okay. If everyone will have the chance to give a quick answer here, and then we'll wrap things up. Thanks for checking.
Yeah, great. So I think all of these were exactly what I would have said. So I think something else that I think a lot of students worry about is being well-rounded, or you have to be the president of a lot of clubs. You have to get all A's, and everything has to be kind of perfect as part of your application. And I think in our holistic admissions processes, we're looking for lots of different types of students. You can be really pointy and be really great in one thing and maybe not be so well-rounded in terms of kind of that definition. We're looking for passion, and that can come in a lot of different ways. So don't worry so much about having to check off a bunch of boxes or do a lot of things to be, quote, well-rounded. We're looking for a lot of different types of students. We want to create a microcosm of the world on our campuses, and there's a lot of ways that we can do that.
Great. I think we mentioned this in the chat, but optional truly means optional surrounding testing. So if a college or university tells you they're test optional, take their word for it. Even if you do submit your tests, it's going to be the least interesting part about you, right? It tells us one thing, and that's how well you took a test for 3 or 3.5 hours. So in the same way that you shouldn't define your own worth by admission decisions, don't let a test either keep you from applying to a college or university or define sort of how you feel about yourself and your ability to be successful on our campuses.
I echo what my colleagues have shared, but I would add that I think it's really easy to see the requirements or the things that we're telling you as the end all be all of this process. But please remember that you have autonomy and agency in this process. You get to decide where you're applying and what's important to you in your college choice. And just because there are certain colleges that you've heard the names of before, it doesn't mean that those are the only options or the best option for you. Find a place that's going to challenge you and help you grow, but is also going to feel like home and that you can see yourself enjoying and having fun in over the next 4 years. There are a lot of schools in the US. There are over 5,000 colleges and universities in the US. There are a lot that offer really great resources, but the most important thing is that you're taking advantage of those and finding a place to be yourself and to be your truly most authentic self in this process. So find places that live out their values in their admission processes. And if some place is requiring something that doesn't fit you, maybe you shouldn't have to change yourself in the process to make yourself fit that institution. You should be finding places that work for you in this process. And remember that this isn't just about us, it's really about you and what's important to you.
Wonderful. Thank you to all of our college representatives for taking that extra moment to debunk a myth for our students today. That will conclude the time that we have for this session. So I want to give a big thank you to our presenters and a big thank you to all of you for joining us. And note that there'll be a very quick 5-question survey that will appear on your screen as soon as this session concludes. If you don't mind filling that out, it's helpful for us to get some feedback as we continue to plan events such as these. There's an additional hour of sessions to sign up for if you haven't already, so feel free to check those out. And a note that this session is, and it was recorded, and if you need to return back to any of this information, you can do so at strivescan.com/yesprep. Those recordings will be posted tomorrow. Thank you so much to everyone once again for joining us, and I hope that everyone has a great rest of their day.